What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Elite 360 podcast and Happy New Year. I'm your host, Anthony Waite, and it's so good to be with you for the first episode of 2025. And as we get ready to kick off another topic on leadership, life, building your legacy, influence and impact in the lives of those you lead and those you love, I wanted to share with you a little something that's going on in my head as I'm planning out my new year, setting goals, if you will, and really just reflecting on how I could take all the progress that I had and that I have and build on it and make it better. Right? I believe that there's no matter where you are in life right now, you can always be, do, and have better. And I think that that's kind of the trajectory of life, is that we're always on this constant pursuit of being better, doing better, and having better quality relationships, emotional health, mental health, physical health, spiritual health in our life. And it's this constant progression, and not perfection, but this constant progression that keeps us, really grounded in reality and in life. And I think most people have this fallacy that one day you're going to arrive or one day you make it. And I think that this is kind of a disease that has plagued our country, our world, where if you don't make it or achieve this certain thing monetarily, materialistically, then you're falling behind or you're somehow a failure. And I'll tell you that if you fall into this trap, what I'm going to share with you today will give you some ideas and hopefully spark some internal drive to make 2025 the best that it can be. Now, I won't give you a guarantee that it's going to make it the best year yet, but it's my hope that what we talk about today, the topics that I share, the ideas, the thoughts that I had as I was creating this episode, will give you some ideas on how you can apply these tools and tactics to your life and make it the best that it can be. And what I'll tell you is, if you can just take it one day at a time, right? Make today better than it was yesterday. Make tomorrow better than what it was today. And you consistently build these wins. You stack up these wins, you will find yourself in a good place. All right. Now, as we get ready to talk about this, we did have a new year, and I saw a lot of people, posting on the new year, on social media for the New Year's Day. And, I looked at it as, a lot of people have some big audacious goals, just like everybody does every year. And I'll tell you, as I analyzed my new year, I was in bed before 11, and I didn't drink a drop of alcohol, and it wasn't nothing against anything or just trying to, set a new habit or a new goal. It was just, I wanted to get to bed at a decent time, and 11 is actually pretty late for me, but I also wanted to wake up the next year and be productive and to be able to spend time with my family and to be able to just enjoy the day. I didn't spend any time in my office planning. I didn't map out my New Year's resolution or my goals. I went to the gym and worked out just like I always do. And I ate a half a dozen of cinnamon rolls and a big pack of bacon. It was my treat to myself, because what I want you to understand is that while motivation will get you going, discipline is what keeps you growing. And motivation is BS, right? Everybody gets motivated, and they get excited about something. And I'll tell you that there's nothing wrong with that. But there will be days where you're not motivated. There will be days where you're not inspired. There'll be days where you're feeling depressed or anxious, and understand that that's part of the process. When you're feeling depressed, it was once said, when you're feeling depressed, it's because you're focused on the past. And when you're feeling anxious, it's because you're too focused in the future. And what I found is that when I feel like I'm depressed, I focus on the now. I look at what's right in front of me, my beautiful children, my family, my health, and all the things that I do have. And gratitude is a powerful thing. And gratitude grounds you in reality and what you do have, instead of focusing on what you don't have or what you may have lost. And so think about that depression and anxiety, that's part of the process. And if you can grasp that concept and you can become okay with it and understand that there's nothing wrong with you. You might be having a day where, hey, you know what? I'm just not feeling like myself. That's okay. And one quick fix of that is going for a run, going to the gym and exercising, getting some alone time to where you can just kind of think about your thoughts and look at your thoughts and analyze them and ask yourself, is this true? Is what I'm feeling true? What I am telling myself, is it true? The negative thoughts, the self-criticism, the judgment, we all have those. even the most successful people. Hell, I have them every single day. And the only difference is that I have found ways to mitigate that process and break that process before I get sucked in and just make it a bad moment, a bad day. Because one bad day, if you drag it on, could be a bad week. A bad week can lead to a bad month. Bad month leads to a bad quarter. Get enough of those, you have a bad life. And I'll tell you that whenever you are looking at setting your goals for 2025, one of the best ways that you can build confidence this year is by keeping the promises that you made to yourself. If you told yourself you're going to go to the gym, then go every single day. If you told yourself you're going to eat healthy, remind yourself every single day that, I'm building my identity to become this person, to achieve this thing, to build this new life that I'm one day going to be proud of. And it's a work in progress. Everybody's a work in progress. Hell, you can ask my family. I'm a work in progress. And every single day is an opportunity to become closer to the person that you're trying to be, that identity that you're trying to create. And what I want you to understand is that discipline is what you want to pursue if you're going to achieve the desires that you are after. Motivation is fleeting because it's based off of feelings. And there's going to be days where you don't feel like it. What are you going to do whenever you don't feel like getting up early? When you don't feel like going to the gym, when you don't feel like eating healthy, when you feel like grabbing a snack, or you had a long day, so you want to grab a drink. Those feelings will point you in the wrong direction. If you stay there long enough, you will find yourself in a place that you don't want to be. Most importantly, becoming somebody that you do not like. And, the truth is, I see all these people putting these challenges up, and you don't need a new workout or a diet plan. You don't need to do, 75 hard. I've done that multiple times in 1 year. You really don't even need to read books. I mean, I advocate for that because leadership and development books are something that I always read, and it helps me create new ideas. But the reality is that you know what to do. We all know what we need to do to be the best version of ourselves. The problem is that taking action and holding ourselves accountable, that's where most people fail. And that's why it's important to get mentors and to get coaches and to surround yourself by people who will help you and hold you accountable. They'll tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. Okay. And so remember, the goal is progression, not perfection. And so I want to share with you kind of some stages that we go through, that as I look at through my life and going from, where I was at one point in my life, kind of bouncing around couch to couch, basically homeless, not having a place to sleep, to working in the White House, to joining the military and becoming a medical provider, to traveling the world and to getting commissioned as a naval officer and leading people and doing the things that I get to do today, speaking on stages and helping people around the world. It wasn't always like this. It was a stage. There were stages in life that I had to go through and that I found myself in, that I had to realize, okay, success is sequential. It's not simultaneous. There is no overnight success. What you see today for me is 21 years in the making. It went from adversity to reflection to using that adversity to my advantage and realizing that life never happened to me. It always happened for me. And if I had not have gone through this hard time, then I wouldn't be able to do what I get to do today. So if that's you and you're in a bad place right now, understand that if you can weather the storm, right, there is sunshine on the other side of those clouds, that it's only a matter of time before that breakdown turns into a breakthrough. The difference is, are you going to be disciplined enough to stay in the game? Okay. Now, when we look at these stages that we're going through, the first one that I found is this default settings, right? So the first stage is default. We're living our life and we're operating from a default way of thinking, default behaviors, default beliefs. And these are usually given to us at an early age. I grew up without a father. He was a drug addict, and, my mom raised 4 kids on her own, and she battled with her own mental health. And we were, moving around every 6 months to a year. Every time the rent was due, it was time to move, and food stamps and welfare and reduced lunches. I often kid with people, I always tell people the military I knew was for me because I knew my social security number when I was 5 years old in kindergarten, because we'd had these little pink meal tickets. And that's what we would use to get our lunches, to get our government lunches at school. And all this programming, the places that we live, the projects, the Section 8 housing, those were all programming me to believe things about myself. And as I, had these relationships with family members that, really helped me realized that, yeah, I was different than most kids. I didn't have a name brand clothes. I wasn't the smartest kid. I didn't, have a lot of things that most kids grew up with. I didn't get to play sports because we didn't have the money. And those default settings carried me into my adulthood. And those were things that I was made to believe. And when we live by default settings, we continue to live our life on repeat. It was once said that, some people live to be 93 years old, but most people will live 1 year 93 times. And if I look back at my life, I was living my life on repeat because I would let these default settings, this default programming run in my thinking, and that would yield the same results. And eventually we get tired of running around in circles, getting the same results. No matter how hard we try, no matter the effort that we put in, work harder, hard work. Well, that gets you only so far, because with the negative thinking, hard work doesn't really produce any new results. And so when we live our life on repeat, building, creating the same results, we drive ourselves crazy, and we realize that, hey, this isn't where I want to be. I'm trying as hard as I can, but I'm not getting the results. And these default programs come from our society, our social circles. Now, even worse, it comes from social media, because we're on social media scrolling, we're comparing and competing and looking at other people's lives, these highlight reels, and we compare ourselves to that. We look at the person with the six-pack abs, or the driving the cars, and even the young generation now, they compare and compete, and they look at their life and say, well, I'm not where I'm supposed to be. I must be a failure. I'm not measuring up to society's expectations. And that's why I tell people all the time is that you have to set high expectations for yourself. Because when I started doing this, when I started setting expectations that were so high that no matter what expectations people put on me, I would always achieve them or overcome them, because the expectations that I had of myself were greater than any expectation that people could put on me. And you hold yourself to a standard. And when you do that, you operate from a different perspective. And you're going to lose people along the way, because they're going to say things like, oh, well, you changed. Well, no shit. You're supposed to change. You're supposed to grow. You're supposed to move into this next evolution of life. You're supposed to grow through things, not just go through them. And if you're going to have any chance of getting out of this default setting, this default way of operating, you're going to have to grow. And it took for me to change the way I looked at things, because when you change the way you look at things, the way you look at things begin to change. And what I found is when I began to change the way I looked at myself, the way I looked at myself began to change. I began to love myself. I began to appreciate myself. I began to value myself. I became proud of myself, and no longer was I seeking external solutions for an internal problem. Because you can only buy so many things to make you feel good in the moment before you're broke. And there will never be an external solution for those internal problems, those default settings that we have. Now, when you get past this default setting and you analyze your life and you realize, man, I've been living my life on repeat. I've been living by programming that does not serve me. We find ourselves in a place of desperation. We get desperate because we find ourselves in a bad place. We find ourselves in a dark place. And this desperation comes from wanting something different. We just don't know how to get it. And for me, that desperation came whenever I was sleeping on a friend's couch. And I realized that there's got to be more for me. There's got to be something else. Like, this cannot be the ending to my story. And that made me decide to join the Navy. And it was a scary thing because it was a lot of unknowns. Nobody in my family was in the military. I didn't have a guide. Nobody said, hey, this could be an opportunity for you. It was just something in my heart and in my mind that says, hey, get up off that couch. Go forth and do something. You weren't created for struggle. You were created for service. Every one of us has the ability to serve others. And what I found is that by doing that, you find significance. And the byproduct of significance is success. And so this desperation allows us to hurt enough that we want to change. One of my mentors says that, we change when two things happen. Either our hearts are broken or our minds are open. What does this mean? Whenever we hurt enough that we have to change, or our minds are open enough that we desire and we want change. And for me, I was hurting so much that I had to change, that there was no other way. It was either change and grow or stay put and deal with the consequences of a broken reality. And this desperation drove me to make a different decision. And maybe that's where you are right now. And you're in a relationship, or you're in a situation where there's something better inside of you. There's something bigger, better for you. You just don't know what to do. And if that's you, I encourage you to seek out mentors. Find somebody who's doing what you're doing and ask them, how do I do that? How do I go from being broken to having a breakthrough? And once this desperation sets in and we decide and we make a decision, then we have a desire. That desire inside of us to be, do, and have more, is it comes to the forefront, and we get a glimpse or a vision of what's possible. And this is exciting. This is an exciting time. But most people, this is where they fail. They have a desire to do something better, to start a business, to get a better job, to go back to school, to start speaking to other people, to help share their story with others so that they can have transformation. And we get motivated and we want to eventually, move forward, but we get discouraged because we're putting in the work and we're kind of spinning our wheels. We don't really get the results right away. And we live in a world right now where this overnight success, or 6 weeks to success, or whatever the BS people are selling today. And we want the result right away, and we're putting in effort, but we're not seeing the results. So we get discouraged and we don't see the fruits of our labor. And so what do? We stop. We go back to what we know, what's familiar. You are either moving forward into growth or moving back into, out of fear, moving back into what's familiar. And this is where I see a lot of people, that are in relationships that do not serve them. And they go forward and they try to get out of it. They try to get out of their situation and it doesn't work. So they go right back to what's familiar. And no matter how screwed up it is, it's comfortable. And this comfort zone is where your desires go to die. And what I want you to understand is that the ability to delay that instant gratification is what separates success from failure. If you can just stay in the game long enough, you will see the results. You will see the fruits of your labor. But it takes this next step, which is discipline. And that's what we're talking about today. You see, discipline is when we're able to make a decision. We're able to give ourselves a command and follow through, regardless of how we feel. And this discipline is what drives us. Discipline comes from the word disciple, which means follower of truth. And what we're able to do is look at what we want to go, and we say, hey, I am worthy, I am deserving, I can do this. And that's the truth. Every one of us has within us the ability to change our life. As human beings, we can make the conscious decision today to do something different that changes our trajectory. If I didn't make that decision to join the military, who knows where I would be? Most of my friends today are dead, on drugs, or in prison. And I would imagine that if I would have stayed the course, that I probably would have followed suit. But out of desperation and a desire for better, I made a decision. But that doesn't stop there. Just because you make a decision doesn't mean that your life's going to change. I quickly found myself continuing to get in trouble inside the military, continuing to hang out with stupid people. You hang out with dumbasses, what do you become? A dumbass. It's not rocket science. But once you make the decision, you got to build the discipline that keeps you going. And that discipline forms habits. It changes your behavior. It changes your belief system. And when we have this discipline, we begin to make these habits a lifestyle, right? Like I don't have to make a goal to go to the gym. That's part of my life. That's what I do every single day. I don't have to make a decision or a goal to eat healthy, because that's just part of who I am now. It's my lifestyle. But it took for me to constantly be disciplined to make those choices into habits, and those habits become a lifestyle. And so remember this, the disciplined people make successful use of the time that everybody else wastes. And at the time of this recording, I have a 9 to 5, I have a career in the military. I'm an active duty naval officer. But on my off time, if I'm not spending time with my kids, I'm in my office creating podcasts, creating content. And that leads to me being able to speak on stages and share my knowledge and, do something that's fulfilling, the passion that I have inside to help people pursue their potential. But most people will go to work, come home, and then bitch about how screwed up their life is. They'll say things like, I don't have enough time, or you don't understand. But disciplined people make use of the time that everybody else wastes. And so you have to start creating margin in your life and asking yourself, what drives me? What fulfills me? What moves me forward? What excites me? And how can I do more of that? This is going to require you to, wake up early. This is going to require you to sacrifice your lunch. This is going to require you to stay up late and work on you and to build you and to grow you so that you can grow other people. You cannot give what you do not have. And for me, as I grew myself as a leader, as a man, as a father, and I started realizing that, hey, there's other people out there that are asking, how did you get to where you are? And then I'm able to share what it really takes. Peel back the curtain and let them know that this isn't an overnight success, that this is over time, that it takes constant reps. And eventually I got the results. When you go to the gym, you don't just go there and do, 4 reps and then put the bar up and then leave and expect to have muscles or have a healthy body. It's continuous reps over time. And the same thing goes for your eating. One bad meal is not going to make you fat. One healthy meal is not going to make you skinny. It's over time, those consistent choices over time that are cultivated out of discipline. That's where we are able to dominate and eventually reach our desires. But where do we fall short whenever we are trying to cultivate the discipline? What I found is that a lot of it is distractions. We're marketed to every single day. We constantly scroll on our cell phones. And I love this saying that, the devil doesn't have to destroy us. All he has to do is distract us, and then we destroy ourselves. And so it takes for you to really buckle down and say, what in my life serves me and what doesn't serve me? How can I do more of what serves me and do less of what does not serve me? What can I do less that's distracting me, that's taking me away from my God-given potential? And when you do that, then you make a decision to get rid of it, to no longer do it. The habits, the behaviors, the beliefs. Start doing the things that are aligned with who you're becoming, not who you are. And as you do that, you build your identity into that person. And before you know it, you have achieved a level of success and significance that you are proud of. And you no longer want to go back to being that person that you once were. And these are the stepping stones to success. But most people will let distraction become a stumbling block. Now, once we cultivate the discipline, we're able to start looking at our life and living by design. This is where we make decisions that are aligned with our vision of our future self, the future things that we want to be, do, and have. And if you can hold that vision long enough, it will one day come to fruition. The problem with most people is that we focus too much on our past mistakes, our past failures, our past, faults, and we judge ourselves and we criticize ourselves. And as soon as we start making progress, we're reminded of who we are and what we did and where we fell short. And this reminder, that little voice that says, who do you think you are? If we don't have an answer for it, it'll defeat you every time. It did for me for so many years. I started growing and I had opportunities, but I sold myself short because that little voice reminded me of where I came from. It reminded me of the time that I failed, the mistakes that I made. And if you don't change your identity and start looking at the future and what you are becoming, you will fall back into those old patterns of thinking and beliefs and behaviors. And if you think a certain way for enough time, you will start to create the life that's aligned with that thinking. And so design means that we have a vision of the future and what we want to be, do, and have, and we start walking in that direction, despite the negative thoughts, negative beliefs, negative behaviors. And if that's you and you have a negative thought or a negative belief about yourself, belief drives your behavior. And how do we change beliefs? By building proof. And that proof comes from doing the work. You go to the gym, you work out for a certain amount of time, you start seeing results, you start getting stronger, you start looking at your body and really, liking what you see. You build your relationships to where you start getting around people that love you just as much as you love them. They're willing to do for you what you do for them. It's a reciprocation. And we start building proof that it is possible. And that proof changes that belief, and that belief changes our behavior. Anytime you find somebody who's acting in a manner that's, in a bad way, it's not that that's who they are, it's who they believe that they are. And as a leader, your power comes from helping them see what they can be by believing in them. I had people that believed in me when I didn't believe in myself, and that helped me push me over that hump. Because every time I'd get going, I'd get some momentum, I'd get motivated, I would fall right back into those old patterns because I couldn't shake that negative thought, that negative vision of my past. And I had to slowly build proof. And who you surround yourself with is very important here because they will help lift you up when you're feeling down. But if you're around people who are pushing you down, agreeing with your BS, your belief system, that's not a good thing, because then you get comfortable and you start surrounding yourself by people who tell you, it's okay, you missed the gym. It's all right. It's only one time. Oh, come out and have a drink. And not realizing that alcohol is exactly what's ruining your life. Oh, it's okay. Come on, man. Let's just go and have a good time. Well, that good time turns into a hard time because you didn't keep the promises that you made to yourself. And as a result, your confidence in your character takes a hit. And you know what you should be doing. You know that that's not what you want to do. But because you can't say no, you fall back into those old patterns. And so design allows us to create a vision and move forward in that direction. Surround ourselves with people and meet people along the way that align with that, and they push you forward, right? And then guess what? Over time, we achieve what most people will say it's luck or chance or lucky you or overnight success. And that's where you can start really sharing your journey and saying, look, I didn't get here overnight. And I love when people say, oh, well, it's easy for you to say you're a naval officer and you're in a leadership position and you got the promotions. But this is a 21-year process. 2 decades of my life has been dedicated to growth and development, to being the person that I am today. And I'm still working at it. Remember, it's progression, not perfection. And so here are some things that I want you to understand as you go into 2025. So maybe some harsh truths, some realities that maybe some of you aren't, that you maybe not want to hear, but I'm going to tell you because you need to hear them. Number one is there is no quick fix. There's no quick fix formulas that are going to change your life. There's no overnight success. There's no secret to success except hard work and determination, backed by discipline to continue to move forward. Okay. Hard work and discipline over time is the only guarantee that 2025 will be different. And if you hear those words and it makes you feel some type of way, then maybe you need to reanalyze and get realistic with where you're at and what you're committed to. Because in life, you don't get what you want, you get what you're willing to commit to. You get what you're willing to tolerate. So you need to set a new standard for yourself and then build a discipline to keep that standard, hold that standard. Even if it makes people uncomfortable, that's okay. Your job is not to make people feel comfortable. And when people leave and they walk away, that's okay. Maybe they shouldn't have been there in the first place. Some people come into our life for a reason, for a season, and some for a lifetime. The worst thing that we can do is drag people through our life. They should have been there for a reason or a season, and we drag them through our life for a lifetime. And they're the same ones that are dragging us down. I call them engines and anchors. There's people in our life that'll lift us up and pull us to greatness. But then there's those that we carry around that are just anchors that are dragging us down. They're slowing down our progression. They're slowing down the process. And just understand that it's okay to let them go. Sometimes we have to give up in order to go up. And giving up means sometimes those are relationships that no longer serve us. Even if that's family members, that's the hardest thing to do, but it's okay. Because eventually what I found is that once you do achieve what it is that you're after, they'll come back around. They'll be the ones asking you for help. They'll be asking you for advice. They will tell you that you've inspired them to change their life. But remember, we cannot give what we do not have. So it's in your best interest to become the best version of yourself so that you can show people what's possible. Now, the next one is you got to stop seeking external solutions for internal problems. This was a hard one for me because I always wanted people to be proud of me. I wanted validation. I wanted somebody to say, man, you're worthy, you're good enough, you have what it takes. But what happens is if in the inside, I didn't believe that about myself. So no matter how good people told me I was, or how great I was, or how proud of me they were, I didn't believe it for myself. So therefore, it just landed on deaf ears. And so change comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. You have to go inside and look at those areas that are broken, that are flawed, and start working on those. For me, that was my confidence. That was my self-image. That was my self-worth, my self-value. And if you don't know your value, rest assured that the world's not going to raise the price. And it wasn't until I became proud of myself and was able to validate myself and look at myself and say, man, I'm not as bad as I think I am, that I'm actually doing okay. And when I did that, no longer did I seek external solutions for an internal problem. I wasn't trying to please people. I wasn't trying to look for that validation. And that's the most powerful place that you can be, because now you understand that it's a you and you deal. It's a you versus you. You can't blame your family or your past or your upbringing or, your spouse or your kids. It's a you and you deal. The person that is stopping you is looking you in the mirror. And until you're able to look at yourself in the mirror and be proud of that person that you see staring back at you, you will always play small in life. And I always say that if you don't know what you bring to the table, you will always be on the menu. And so you have to understand that your self-worth and your self-value, your confidence has to be earned. It cannot be learned. You have to do the work and prove it to yourself by keeping the promises that you make to yourself every single day. Now, understand this. The next point, you won't always feel motivated or inspired. Depression and anxiety are part of the process. I can't tell you how many times I wake up and I feel depressed. I don't feel motivated. I don't feel inspired, or I feel anxious because of all the things I have to do or get done. All the pressure that's on me as a leader, as a husband, as a father, as a person of influence, it can take a toll on you. But understand that that pressure is exactly what you need to pursue your potential and reach your purpose. And when you understand that, you can take a 24-hour period to reflect, refocus and re-engage, but don't let it be how your life continues to go. And so understand that motivation is fleeting and that depression and anxiety are part of the process. You're going to have days that are off. And so if you understand that, you understand that it's only for a moment. Okay. The next one is you got to feed your faith and starve your fear. One of the biggest things that you're going to face is that fear of failure, that fear of judgment and criticism. But understand this, you will never be criticized by somebody who's doing better than you. I've yet to see it. Most people that criticize me is because they really want to do what I'm doing. They want to be where I'm at. And that's okay. Give them grace. Separate yourself from them. Distance yourself from them. Limit the time that you spend with people like that. And most importantly, the biggest critic and the biggest judgment that we have is the ones that we put on ourselves. And that's why it's important to surround yourself by people who are going to push you. They're going to lift you up. They're going to hold you accountable. And so feed your faith and starve your fear, because with your faith, as it grows, your fear becomes smaller. But if you don't feed your faith, your fear will take over and it will ruin your life. And it's very hard to move forward carrying around fear. It's a lot easier to move forward when you're full of faith, when you're flexing your faith muscle. Okay. The next one is you got to cut out all negative habits, behaviors, and beliefs and people. This is the fastest way to get to where you want to go. Every day, you got to analyze your life and say, does this serve me or is this stopping me? Watching Netflix and chill, there's a time and place for that. Eating cake and ice cream, there's a place for that. I love, a bowl of cereal, a box of cereal. I can tear up, some sweets, but I'm disciplined enough to get back on track. I don't let that become my future. I don't let it become a daily thing. And so you have to analyze your habits, your behaviors, and beliefs and ask yourself, does this serve me? These people in my life, do they serve me? Do they serve my purpose and where I'm trying to go? And if they don't, you have to have the courage to cut them out, because if not, it will continue to drag you down. Okay. The next one is you got to stay away from those who agree with your BS. I said this before, but the worst thing you can do is surround yourself with people who agree with your BS, your belief system, and your bullshit. You want people in your life that will tell you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. This is that, that tough love that we need to keep us moving forward. They remind us of what we said we wanted to do. And this helps us stay committed to the process. It helps us stay committed to our dreams, our desires, and our aspirations. But as soon as you get around people who are full of, they just want to gossip and they want to talk about, all the bad stuff, that becomes your reality and you find comfort in that. There's people that I know that are comfortable with chaos and that's all they want. And when things are going good, they find a way to self-sabotage. And if you hang out with those, guess what you become? That person. And no matter what level of success you have in your life, you will find a way to sabotage it. And don't be that person. So you got to stay away from those people. Surround yourself, seek counsel in people who are going where you want to go, who are going to push you, that are aware of what you want, and they hold you accountable. One of the things I did when I was growing in my faith and wanting to understand more about how God works in our life, I created a men's leadership devotional. And I surrounded myself with great people, great men who are further along than me in this area. And they push me and they guide me and they give me insight and counsel. And it's a place that I can go to grow my faith. And over the last year and a half, We've met every Saturday, and it's been such a game changer in my life, because now it allows me to flex my faith and starve my fear. Okay. The last one is understand that there's always an opportunity cost that comes with everything. And we got to be willing to pay the price. In 2024, I got promoted to O4, Lieutenant Commander. And now going from enlisted as an E1 to O4 is a big thing. It comes with a lot of responsibility. It comes with a lot of requirements, and it takes a lot of work to get there. But what I found was, as I promoted to Lieutenant Commander and I assumed the role as a director for a big program for inter-service training, I quickly found myself feeling unfulfilled. There was an opportunity cost, and it was going to cost me the things that I love to do, which is interact with people, help people, speak, coach, and train people. And I found myself in a position that was unfulfilling. Now, I can't change that because I'm on a contract with the military. So what I realized was I have to find fulfillment outside of my 9 to 5. Same thing goes for you. If you're in a job that you do not like, you have to build the skill set and mindset that allows you to do things outside of that 9 to 5. And if you're a civilian, chances are you can probably go find another job if you get the education and the experience. Or if you have the education and the experience, you can change your job at any given time. For me, I have at least 3 years in this role. So my job now is to do these things in my 9 to 5, but I can control what I get to do outside of that. And so it's finding fulfillment outside of our 9 to 5. It's not letting our identity get tied up in the day-to-day grind of what we have to do. And when we do that, I look at my life of what do I get to do? Well, I get to coach my kids' baseball team. I get to play with my sons, in their sports. I get to be home in time for dinner. I get to speak. I get to do my podcast. I get to coach people outside of my work. And it brings so much joy and fulfillment. And what I realized is when I took this new role on, I stopped doing those things. I stopped doing the podcast. I didn't have time. So I said, and so I thought, and I realized that that's the very thing that drives me, that I find fulfillment in, is doing things like this. And so I started doing it again. And I found, man, you know what? I look forward to those days, because if I can just do what I'm supposed to do, get the job done, right? And then I get to do the things that I love. And so sometimes you have to go through it to get to it. And you have to understand that when you focus on the things that you can't control, your life becomes chaotic. But what I want you to do is find the things that you can control. I can control coming in my office, for 30, 45 minutes and recording a podcast. I can control coming into my office once a week and coaching people on Zoom. I can control going out and speaking to, audiences around the country. I can control that. And if I focus on that, then guess what? I can get a result. And if I get a result, I can change a result. But as we continue to move forward, we see what's possible, and then we double down on it. And guess what? There will come a time where maybe I get to do this full time. Maybe I get to do this as a career one day. And for you, you got to find what that is for you. Find those things that ground you in reality and give you a sense of gratitude, and do more of that. And no longer are you tied down, your identity stuck in what I have to do. Your identity becomes, this is what I get to do. And so you always have to understand that any opportunity will come with a cost. You got to be willing to pay the price. Okay. Now, as we get ready to wrap this up, I want you to understand that in 2025, especially for you men, the biggest flex is not more materialistic or flashy things. It doesn't matter how big your house is or what kind of car you drive or how much money you make. The biggest flex in 2025, especially in the world that we live in today, is more health. And I say health, but that's mental health, your mindset. This is your physical health. This is your body. This is, cultivating the strength to carry on and to have longevity in your life. I just recently, tore my rotator cuff in my shoulder, and I realized that, man, my physical health, I have to take care of me, because if I don't, then I'm going to break down. We're not getting any younger, and your physical health is the only thing that you have that's going to keep you in the game long enough to reach your potential, your God-given potential, and achieve your purpose. And so your mental health, your physical health, your emotional health, right? How you deal with problems and how you face adversity. You got to start building your emotional health, because how you prepare in times of calm will determine how you play in times of chaos. And so that emotional health, your resiliency, you have to be able to grow that. And in 2025, the biggest flex is your emotional health. The next one is your spiritual health. How are you grounded in your faith? For me, I got into this 1 year Bible plan, and every morning I'll read my Bible and I'll journal about it, and it kind of helps me understand how we are created and how we are looked at by our Creator, and where we get our validation and our purpose. It doesn't come from man; it comes from something greater outside, that's greater than ourselves. And this helps align me with everything that I do. Is not about me. My story, my journey, this podcast, my coaching, my speaking, it is to glorify what God's done in my life. And I'm building my spiritual health. And when you have that, you're able to weather the storm faster, better, and with more grace. The last one is your relational health, your relationships in your life. You should be investing in those you lead and those you love every single day, spending quality time with those around you. I look at my boys and, they're 8 and 9 and they're growing up so fast. And I often look at memories on Facebook or in my computer. And I look at the times when they were just babies and they're running around in diapers. When my sons were little, I was deployed, and I missed a lot of those little moments of when they were babies, and it's sad. It's heartbreaking, and I get emotional because I realize that those relationships are what matter most. After all the position, the title, the promotions, and all that stuff goes away, it's the relationships that you have in your life that are going to be there. Those are the people that are going to be there when all this goes away. When you're laying on your deathbed and you're taking your last breath, who's going to be around you? What are they going to say about you? Your character. Nobody cares about your credentials. And so you have to build those relationships. Build new ones with people who are a little bit further along than you. Look around you and build those relationships with those that you lead and those you love, because those are going to be the people that are going to be with you when all this is gone, when all the flashy things are gone, and whenever the house is falling apart or the cars no longer work. Those relationships are what's going to drive you and keep you grounded in reality. So those are the biggest flexes, and that's what I'm working on in 2025. And I want you to understand that as you go into the new year, it's about chasing progression, not perfection. I'll see you on the next episode.